All right, hey, it's Scott Penfold here with you on another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And a cool one this week, man, as I'm going to be talking to vocalist, guitarist, and saxophonist. Yes, I said saxophonist. Vince Wilquin from French progressive metal band FRACTAL Universe. You can call them technical death metal if you like. You can call them even symphonic metal, death metal, whatever. They're just an awesome band, signed to Metal Blade Records, and they've got the new album called The Impassable Horizon, their third album, and it's dropping on June 25th via Metal Blade Records. As well as always, Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude is going to be joining me live from Las Vegas for the second portion of the podcast to talk about the week that was in hard rock and metal. But we'll touch base with Johnny after we talk with this gentleman here, Mr. Vince Wilquin. He is the frontman, guitar player, vocalist, and yes, saxophonist for progressive death metal band from Eastern France, FRACTAL Universe. And Vince, it's really great having you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining me this week.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
To start off, I want to introduce people to you who may not have heard of the band yet. I know this is your third album. Tell us a little bit about how the band got started.
Well, basically, the band was formed in late 2014. Basically, all of us were at some point living in the same city. Then life came in its way. Some people went for studies. Some people went back to their home regions. And so we had known each other for longer than that. But it's only like in late 2014 that all of us came together again, finished the studies and everything, and landed again in the same city. And that made it possible for us to form the band. And then from the beginning on, we wanted to do this band as seriously as possible. We all had previous bands before that, but nothing like really serious and anything. So when we started this band, we really wanted to do everything 100% and had like big ambitions from the beginning. So that's how we came to be.
But did you all have a shared love of metal or of a certain subgenre of metal, or what was it that brought you guys together?
Well, yeah, we all love bands like OBSCURA, Gojira, and all that kind of death metal, progressive metal stuff. So all of that kind of brought us together.
Excellent. Now, getting into The Impassable Horizon, it's your third album. Now, this is also, much like your last album, it's a concept album. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
What's the importance to you with the delivery of a concept album instead of just, delivering 10 songs? And also, I know that you guys worked with an actual psychologist with some of this. We'll get into that a bit later, which I think is very cool. Getting into the concept, what's the story about in the album?
For all our three full-length records now, we had concept records. And to us, it's a way like to tie all these 10 songs, which were written at the same time in our lives, to tie them all together, basically. Because they all spawned within months from each other. So they're all written in the same state of mind, also in terms of the music. So to us, having a lyrical concept that weaves all of that together is kind of the natural way to go, basically.
Certainly. And this one, obviously, The Impassable Horizon, deals a lot with death.
Absolutely. Basically, the record talks not specifically about death, but more about how we human beings perceive our own mortality and our own finiteness, basically. Mm-hmm. And so it talks about how we experience the fact that one day our life will end and what consequences that has for us, and how, despite of that knowledge, we manage to still have meaning, to give our life meaning, basically.
I think that not only is the subject matter just so vast and so incredible and intricate at the same time, but also the musicianship, I just find it just floored me. And I got to tell you, I'm so impressed with the evolution that you guys have had from the first to the third albums. I mean, just even with the saxophone and everything, it's so unique. And I think that's such a killer thing to do.
Well, thank you very much. We try to work hard on our instruments. Now I have to practice both guitars, vocals, and saxophone. So I have to split my time in between all of these three. So that's very exciting, but pretty challenging as well.
Well, you didn't play sax on the second album. You learned for the third one. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. I've only been playing for like 18 months or something like that.
Wow, so you sound great.
Well, thank you. Fun on the instrument, and obviously it's easier to learn a new instrument when you're already an accomplished musician. So, but yeah, I'm still pretty new to it, and so it was pretty exciting for me to be able to record the instrument for the first time myself, and I'm also pretty excited of doing it on stage now.
Yeah, I mean, like when you think of progressive death metal or think of death metal for whatever subgenre, you wouldn't think of brass too often, but it just works so beautifully, I think, with your songs.
Yeah, I think so as well. I love the versatility of the saxophone. You can really get a lot of power, a lot of heaviness out of the instrument, but still all that softness that is maybe more that you are maybe more accustomed with. So I think it has an incredible range that fits our music and also metal in general pretty well.
Certainly does. As I was mentioning before, you guys were working closely with a doctor in psychology who was actually a close friend of yours for this one. What was the meaning of having this person involved?
He's been involved in our previous records as well. So he's basically the mastermind behind all of these concepts and lyrics. And so we work in close collaboration with him. We send him the musical pre-productions once they're complete. Basically, the whole record is already written out in terms of the music. And then we discuss themes together. We discuss what these songs make us feel, how to arrange them into a record, and then try to find fitting themes for all of that. And with that new record, that has a pretty mysterious and quite dark vibe, despite being like having more clean singing and the saxophone stuff. It still has a lot of gloomy atmospheres and stuff. So we figured that the theme of death and the complexity and the variety of this subject would fit the record pretty well, actually.
Yeah, there is some beauty on the album, certainly, and I think that it's a very almost shocking beauty, I think, because you don't expect it, and then there is that brutality there too, which I think it juxtaposes itself. I mean, would you consider that to be like a style, or is it something that you were aiming for? Did it just sort of come naturally with you guys?
Well, it came naturally, I think. But then when we write music, we try not to set ourselves any limitations in terms of what we can do or cannot do on the record.
Sure.
So basically, we try to write anything we want to hear. So it results in a very diverse record with each song, I think, standing out on its own. Each song has its own vibe, its own color, and that's something pretty important to me.
What about the subgenre known as technical death metal? Do you embrace that, or how do you feel about it?
Well, I don't like the name technical death metal that much because to name music after its technicality is a little bit weird to me.
Right.
To me, like musical technicality is just like having more tools maybe at your disposal to create music, but in the end, it's about writing songs, writing good music, you know. So technical death metal, I don't like that much.
Well, so when you go into the studio, when you're actually writing a song then, Vince, like how do you lay it down? Is it like a group effort, or is it something like you all bring in ideas, or how is it laid down?
Actually, I'm the one writing almost everything in terms of the music. So what I do is I write tabs and transcriptions on Guitar Pro, record some rough pre-productions with pretty much all the instruments already in. So I write the rough bass and drum lines as well. Then I send it over to the guys. We discuss it. We discuss maybe arrangement details or little stuff here and there. And then only everybody learns its part and we start rehearsing it in the rehearsal room. And then obviously everything gets refined and everything. But mostly it starts out from myself at home doing stuff.
A couple of the songs that I've heard and that have really, I think, stepped out for me on the album. The first one would be Symmetrical Masquerade. What can you tell me about that song?
Well, it's one of my personal favorites as well. It's one of the easiest to catch, maybe. It has a pretty simple song structure. There are only like a few different parts, but all of the complexity is basically in the arrangement, in the layers and everything. I particularly like that whole middle section.
Very much.
It's just like a long development of the same idea, where more and more layers get added, where the intensity goes higher and higher. And this is the very reason why it's one of my favorite songs, because of that middle part. And
you know what's really nice too is track 11, Flashes of Potentialities.
Well, this is actually an unplugged acoustic version of a track from our previous record, Rhizomes of Insanity. And this was a lot of fun to do. It's basically thought as like a bonus track for the record, but still we put a lot of effort into it, like it would be like a real track. Yeah. And I really like how it turned out. It was fun to have to arrange something written for distorted instruments into something a lot more open. And I think it worked out pretty well with that particular song.
With the 3 albums that you've already got in, do you see the 4th release possibly even becoming even more of a progressive venture then?
Well, we'll see. I've started writing a bunch of pre-productions already, which are pretty progressive, but still in the same characteristic direction, I would say. Yeah. But what I would love to do, I think, is incorporate the saxophone even more, because now that's an acquired skill that I have. And while I added it pretty late in the process for the Impassable Horizon, now I know that I'm going to be able to add it a lot earlier on, and maybe it will affect the songwriting a little bit more.
And again, I think it just really works just so well. Obviously, with shows starting to be announced again, are there plans to get out there on the road sooner than later, hopefully?
Well, yeah, we have our first show scheduled for the release of the record. On July 3rd, we're going to play our hometown with playing the album almost in its entirety. Great. And apart from that, we have a couple shows and festivals scheduled throughout the summer and early fall in France mostly.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And apart from that, we'll see. We are working hard to make it possible to go to North America maybe sometime. We have an agent over there who's trying to bring us over, but obviously I think you can guess that it's still pretty complicated to make it overseas with all these pandemic issues.
Oh, of course.
But we are really hoping to be able to tour again in maybe next year or so more intensely. But we'll see how it evolves.
What's the metal scene like over in France right now? Like, I mean, obviously Gojira and you guys are making some marks. Well, what's the metal scene like out in France right now?
Well, I think it's doing pretty well. And I think a major part is due to Gojira having that success, because they really opened the way, I think.
Certainly.
Because now many people start to realize that metal is actually pretty cool, and not only like something really underground.
Exactly.
And I think because of that, more and more quality bands are emerging. Many of them are somewhere or another influenced by Gojira. Mm-hmm. But there are many good bands like Tripalium, Hypnose, Gorod, obviously,
yes,
and Cardinia, for example.
Yes,
many talented bands, and I think we can really benefit from Gojira now having that mainstream exposure.
Sure, certainly. And which of your fellow metal bands are you listening to right now? Like, who are you really into?
You mean in France, or?
I mean anywhere. Like, what are you listening to right now?
Actually, my last big discovery was Caligula's Horse from Australia.
Oh wow, okay.
I was really blown away by their last record, Rise Radiant, which is so colorful, so diverse, and it has been a huge inspiration on me. Apart from that, I've been listening to a lot of the Shining records. Shining from Norway.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, like I said, we've been going over a lot of your influences and things like that. Do you find that now that you've got 3 albums in, and that you've got actually people coming up to you and saying, hey, you've become sort of this influence, or like we did this with our band because we heard it from you. Are you starting to find that as well, like the reciprocation?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I think we have very strong fan base with like a few super invested fans that are basically covering all our solos and some riffs as soon as we release them.
Nice.
And I think they are definitely, if they start making music themselves, some of them already do, would name us as influences maybe. Yeah. And that's really amazing for me as a musician to think about the fact that I've influenced the lives of people maybe at some other place in the world. So even if only like a handful of people, it's still an amazing achievement for me. And for
certainly is. You guys are certainly a thinking man's metal. Like, it's almost like a mature metal, and I think it's just so great. It's such an experience, and it's such an escape from reality, for me at least. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think music can really help you out. Actually, it did for me. Music really helped me out in times where I maybe hadn't that much else in my life. And it's really, I think, a strength, especially in times like these. Music and art is so important for people, because we cannot, at least in the last year, we couldn't go out a lot. We couldn't do what we normally do. So having music still, being able to jam new records, have new artists release stuff and new movies and everything, I think that's what keeps people going, basically.
I found that too, even being over here in Canada, that art was almost one of the first things to go, really, when it came down to necessities and lockdowns. And I think that's one of the things that was it's just so important and needed, just to be able to maintain some level of sanity, to maintain some level of being human. You know what I mean? So I take it was kind of like that in France too, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I haven't been to a single metal show in like 18 months.
Yeah, same here, man.
So yeah, I'm really missing something here.
Yeah.
But now hopefully the situation is going to get better. And but yeah, it's such a huge piece of life that has been missing over the last year or so. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really has. Thanks so much for your time, man. And hopefully we'll talk to you again soon, and all the best to you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
The name of the band, FRACTAL Universe, and their third album, The Impassable Horizon, is going to be dropping June 25th via Metal Blade Records. It's great. It is brutal and beautiful. But it's Scott Penfold here with you on the Loaded Radio podcast, and I'm now being joined by Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude down there in Las Vegas, Nevada, joining me as he does every week to talk about the week in hard rock and metal. So, Johnny, I guess you're pretty happy about the Golden Knights right now, eh?
Oh, buddy, we're kicking ass, as you can see. The thing is, when they played Colorado that first round, that should have been the Stanley Cup, because those were the two best teams in all the divisions. Now we're playing Montreal. Good team, but I think they skated by. Toronto's best players were hurting down. Same with Winnipeg. A couple of their best players were hurting down. And Montreal, They everyone's healthy on their team, and they got good goaltending. But when they're talking about the Vegas and Colorado thing, they said, I feel sorry for any team that's going to face either one of those two teams that played. So we'll see what happens. But yes, I'm pleased.
But turning from hockey to rock and metal, a few things going on this week, John. First off, have you got anything for me?
I do. I got a couple of tidbits.
Yeah.
You know how we were talking about Vince Neil a couple of weeks ago, last month, how he just, he went viral with the awfulness that he didn't. He basically quit live on stage there. Another show that was pending for this weekend, he's had to cancel for obvious reasons. New York. If you're a fan of Vince Neil, now you can get a refund, or it's Grand Funk Railroad that's stepping up to the plate, and they're going to play.
Isn't Bruce Kulick?
He's formerly of Kiss. Yeah, Bruce Kulick, formerly of Kiss, but believe it or not, he's been in Grand Funk many more years than the time he spent with Kiss. He's been in Grand Funk for, I don't know how many. I'm going to say 17, a long time, dude.
Yeah, Mark Farner is still in the band, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Mark Farner and his American band. That's what it's called. It says replacing Vince Neil will be Grand Funk Railroad frontman Mark Farner and his American band.
Right.
And it says tickets for Vince Neil's canceled performance will be honored, of course, and those that wish to obtain a refund may do so at the point of purchase. It kind of sucks. Phil Collin from Def Leppard, he's saying, well, he's got a year. And that's just kind of too bad and awful to hear. Not to keep going on about this, but come on, dude. If you got a solo career and you're going to do that, make sure you're happening. And then you've got this massive tour with, that's kind of, I think, the biggest rock tour of the year. When you heard about this last year, and then now it's postponed to 2022. Yeah. Come on, buddy. You're making yourself out to be a laughing stock. Mm-hmm. And that's not cool.
It's not. I don't think Vince Neil is going to be doing any solo shows anytime soon, because just the press and the attention that video got, John. Like you said, it went viral.
Oh yeah. He's going to be under the microscope. Everything he does now, the way he looks, the way he moves, and especially the way he sings those tunes, if they're not good, he's just going to be ridiculed, and it's demoralizing. So I agree. I don't think he should do any shows. I think he should just can it and get into shape and blow everybody away next summer with Motley.
Completely, dude.
If he can.
And I hope the guy can pull through that. I hope he can do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. For my loaded news, I just have a few small things here and there. Exodus guitarist, as well, played with Slayer for many years, Gary Holt. He quit drinking booze effective today. Today is his first day off.
Wow.
So, hey, good for him. I know his wife's been sober for a long time, but I guess he said the last year it's gotten the better of him. So he is putting the plug in the jug, John. And I guess is going to try sobriety out, which a lot of
50. He's 50 plus. I mean,
57 years old.
You've got to know when to fold him, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that Gary is one of those guys too. He seems like a guy that really likes to party and have a good time. So there is a time you got to I guess just, calm down a little,
right.
Just breathe a bit,
Yeah. Did you hear about Courtney Love and what she is sort of accusing Dave Grohl and Nine Inch Nails frontman Trent Reznor? Basically, a little while ago, she relinquished all the Kurt Cobain and songwriting royalties to Dave Grohl. And then she ended up saying that Trent Reznor, it had to do with the Me Too movement, how this guy was taking advantage of women and, shenanigans, so to speak, going on. She's just a weird woman. I'm just going on what I've sort of read. You gave away all the royalties back to Dave Grohl, but now you're saying, no way, I don't want to do this. She's odd, but now it's going to, I would assume, go back into court because I think she signed over this stuff. And the fact that she's, making accusations against Trent Reznor, I think rock stars with the Me Too movement, hey, a lot of stuff happens and it's been awful, but days of the groupie and stuff, I mean, if you're knocking on that bus door and you're hanging with these guys, I mean, that's part of what happens. It's called rock and roll for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning anything, but, to sit here and start accusing Trent Reznor of, it's a big deal. Look where it's coming from. She's a bit of a whack job. So we'll just have to see how this comes out. And again, Chris Novoselic, he's in there too with Dave Grohl and the royalties. She's relinquished them to those two members of Nirvana, but now she's saying, no way, I'm going to sign back on that. I don't want that to happen. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I just found it interesting. It sort of came out of the blue, but we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, I've heard about it too. I mean, there's stuff about it up at loadradio.com. It's kind of nuts and yeah, whatever. I mean, look at the source. Also, I got news. Yngwie Malmsteen announces a U.S. fall tour with John 5. Yngwie is going to be kicking off the tour November the 18th in Glenside, Pennsylvania, wrapping up December 16th in Dallas. And Yngwie is touring his new album Parabellum, which is going to be dropping July 23rd. He released his dates via Twitter today, and Yngwie and John 5 would be a good wank fest if you dig guitar players. If you do, I've seen both, and it's a muso, it's a sausage party for sure, dude. Just tons. I mean, could you just just the leads alone? I mean, remember how you and I when we went and saw Zakk Wylde? Oh,
it's just an onslaught of soloing. In an encore of a Sabbath tune, and there you go. And if you're a guitar nut, go see Yngwie. I don't even think he doesn't even socialize with his band. He sets up on one side of the stage, and the band is all crammed in, and he's got a wall of basically fake Marshalls up there. But if you love that stuff, that's the guy to go and see. Yeah. And John 5 is a little more fun, but again, it's very muso stuff, but you can find this stuff online. He does a ton of covers, and he's like a jukebox, this guy, but he's a killer player.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're both great players. I think it would be a great tour to see. What else have I got here? Oh, I've got Sean Yseult from White Zombie recently saying to Ireland's Overdrive. You remember Sean Yseult, right? The Czech bass player. Uh-huh. She was asked if she would ever consider reuniting with the original members of the band, say for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if it were to happen. Would she be open to do that? And she said that she would. When the box set came out in 2016 called It Came From NYC, it did bring up some memories about the band and I guess about being with Rob. I mean, she's Rob's ex, essentially.
Right. Years ago. Yes.
Yeah. And she said that apparently, in her opinion, back then, her comment was that when Tempesta came in the band, that's when things sort of started to fall apart. I don't know what exactly the details are there. She said that she would be open. I don't think Rob would ever perform with White Zombie personally.
No, not with her.
No, I just think he's so past it. You know?
I agree. I think there's a talent level there too. And you just brought up when Tempesta came in the band, he's a great drummer.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying she isn't, but I think the ability wasn't there for her to keep up with this guy. And I bet that was a problem. You know, he's a killer drummer. He's played with a lot of bands. And Rob's got a great backing band. Tempest is actually playing in the Cult now. He's the drummer for the Cult.
And isn't John Five playing with Rob Zombie?
Yeah, he's got a revolving sort of door, but John Five is there, and he played Manson, and they've had massive fights on stage. Yeah. But it's Ginger Fish now is playing drums for Rob for the last few years. Kenny.
He came out to our club night that one night in Toronto.
That's right. Yeah. I've known him for a few years, but yeah, he got the gig in Zombie. I was down in Hollywood, and it had Joey Jordison. It was the Halloween show with Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie.
Oh, I remember you were telling me about that.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool. And I ran into Kenny there, and that's, I think he was getting introduced to Rob and officially maybe kind of getting the audition process happening. At least that's what I gathered when I talked to him. That being said, I do not see, Rob Zombie getting back with White Zombie with Sean on bass. No way. No.
Again, like I was saying, he's just come so far. It's not like White Zombie was Black Sabbath and he's Ozzy going back. I mean, they released a couple of great albums. I really, really, really enjoyed Astro Creep. I mean, of course, you can't go wrong with Thunder Kiss, dude. I love that stuff. But I don't think Rob would want to revisit that in that particular way. And that's
he will play a few hits off those records, obviously live. I saw them do it at CBGB's. Yes, I saw them at CBGB's in '88. And
White Zombie, wow, that would have been cool.
Yeah, they weren't signed. It was Prong, White Zombie, The Freaks, and Raging Slab.
Oh, that would have been Raging Slab, dude. That's great.
It was pretty cool. But the only band I thought that was really good was Prong with Tommy Victor. I said, these guys are great. Everything else was kind of crappy. I mean, not crappy. It was just, and we were gigging down there too at that same time. So, anyways, I thought that part of that Zombie thing, that was the beginning of it. And Rob with, being the artist, it was more of an art thing as opposed to a music thing. And then I remember us being in the studio and Michael Alago, who was working for Geffen, and he came in, we were recording the JC stuff, and he goes, I got a gift for you guys. And he handed me, this was 4 years later, this White Zombie thing. And I kind of laughed and went, oh my God, I saw these guys. And then we listened to it. And in my opinion, that first record, this is me. I hated the production on it, man. It didn't sound good, whatever. And then we let him listen to our stuff. And he goes, wow. He goes, yeah, that sounds really good. A little different stuff we were doing. Yeah. But anyways, I mean, that's ancient history, but cool band. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. I mean, it's a funny thing you said, getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think Rob Zombie gives one shit about that.
No, I don't think he gives the slightest, dude.
No.
Least. Johnny, I really, hey, go Knights. Anything to say before we wrap up the show, buddy?
Yeah, buddy, go Knights. And we've had a little warm day today, Scott. I looked outside and I said, I'm not going out there. It's 117. Buddy, I mean, it is cooking, dude. It is cooking out there. The okay thing about this, we had a little cloud cover, so the sun was not blasting you. But dude, 117, we're breaking records, blowing out walls, and
putting in bathroom,
breaking records,
buddy. That is hot. That is.
Oh, it's hot. I mean, I don't even want to go in the pool, dude. There's not even any pool action going on there.
No, I can understand that. Thank God for AC. As always, hey, don't forget, check out loadedradio.com for all your hard rock and metal news, updated daily as well. The 24-hour radio station. Me and Johnny Root are on there all the time, as well as Sinister Minister and Jules, and a little bit of AJ St. James. You can hear him a little bit on there. And as well the podcast section there. You can listen every week. Next week on the podcast, John, we're going to be having Kyle Gass from Tenacious D.
Oh, that's awesome, man. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, he's great. So that's going to be the next week on the Loaded Radio podcast. And a big thanks, of course, going out to Vince Wilquin from Fractal Universe for talking to us a little bit earlier on. Don't forget, they've got the new album, The Impassable Horizon, dropping June 25th. All right, on behalf of Johnny Rood and everybody else at Loaded Radio and LoadedRadio.com, we'll talk to you again next week right here on the Loaded Radio podcast.
Loaded Radio.